There have been over 30 Madden games, and we're getting ready to rank all of them right now. Let's do it. Just so you know, just in case no one has ever seen a tier list before, S means superior, the best games there ever was. I left all the way down the bottom, worst Madden ever. That's pretty self-explanatory. Everything in between, A means it was pretty great. It was revolutionized the game. It's one of the best ones to be made. B was okay. C is average. D was not good at all. E was terrible. They probably shouldn't even made the game. There was no changes whatsoever. It was basically a replica of the Madden previously. We probably can say that about a lot of the Maddens. And then of course, there can only be one worst Madden ever. So let me know before we start this, what is the best Madden game you've ever played and what is the worst? And we'll have to compare notes. All right, so let's get started. We're gonna start with the C-class Maddens. Some of the ones that were kind of subpar. They did some good things, they did some bad things. And to start this off, we're gonna do Madden 2009 with Brett Favre on the Green Bay Packers. One of the cool facts that maybe some of you don't know is that was the year that Brett Favre retired, unretired, went back to the Jets. Madden actually kept him as a cover athlete with the Green Bay Packer uniform, but then they went back and made another cover that had him with that Jets roster. One of the good things about this game is that they released, or got rid of, I'm sorry, that quarterback vision cone that was so annoying. And if you had a really great quarterback, it just made you so much better than if you had a team that had a subpar or below average quarterback or a rookie quarterback. And it was really great thing during that time in 2008 for them to get rid of that quarterback cone. So we're going to keep that as a C grade. Okay, the next one we got 2011 with Drew Brees. He was the first player to get voted in as a fan vote. It was a really cool thing they did for a while until Peyton Hillis got brought in as a cover athlete. Let's be real, that shouldn't have happened. But one of the cool things that they added with this year's Madden was that they had Madden Ultimate Team, I think for the first time in 2011. Some people love Ultimate Team, some people hate it. Some people think this is kind of when Madden started to trend in the wrong direction. But for whatever the case, they did add a new game. They did have the fan voting. There were some new mechanics that got added in the game, kind of like every year. And I think this was a pretty average game. Then coming in right behind it, we just spoke about him, Peyton Hillis, the one-year wonder running back for the Cleveland Browns. We're going to put that as a C grade. One of the cool things about 2012 was that they did some really cool things for franchise. They had hot and cold. I don't know if you remember that. You have players that actually, their ratings will go up and down depending on if they're doing good or not. They had expanded rosters, which is a big thing. I think all the way to 75 roster teams now. And they actually have free agency bidding, which made free agency a little bit more exciting and fun versus the old system that they currently had. All right, so now we're going to move down to D. And with the D class, remember, these are ones that really didn't have that many improvements. The gameplay was kind of subpar, and they really didn't do a lot of things that really changed the landscape for Madden. It was more of just a replication of the previous years. And first up on this is Madden 2007 with Sean Alexander. After he had that phenomenal year, I think he rushed for like 27 touchdowns, I believe it was. One of the cool things they actually did add with this game was that lead blocking control. I don't know if you remember that or not, where you could actually take over one of the lead blockers and actually block for your running back, which is a cool thing, a cool concept, but that just didn't really work out. One of the things that we've always been complaining about as Madden franchise players, or just people who play Madden in general, is that the blocking system is all messed up. They tried to implement this, but it kind of failed miserably. Other than that, the game really wasn't all that great. Next up, we got Calvin Johnson, aka Megatron, coming in right behind it. This one really didn't do a whole lot. I think the best thing about Madden 13 was the fact that I think Jim Nantz and Phil Simms were commentators on there. They had specific touchdown celebrations for some of the big players during the time, like Tim Tebow, Cam Newton with the Superman, so on and so forth. I think the Gronk spike was a really big one that they implemented. Other than that, I don't really remember a whole lot. User scores weren't that great, and I think it was a Madden that really didn't implement a whole lot of new changes, and got fans really excited. All right, next up we've got Madden 15, the second player only ever to solo cover as a defensive player for Madden. Richard Sherman, the first being Ray Lewis, and we'll get to that game here in a second. But on Madden 15, you'll notice a trend with some of these that I'm putting here. They had some good thoughts, and maybe for whatever case, it just seemed like it didn't work out. I think this was the first year that they had the kind of like the vision cone for quarterbacks, but it was for tackling, and it really didn't work out too well. You had to do specific types of tackles in that cone, and for whatever reason, a lot of us just didn't really like it. Other than that, there really wasn't a lot added onto the game. They quote unquote had a lot of more defensive mechanics that they implemented with new defensive schemes, especially for zone coverages, but I really didn't ever feel like that I could really even tell a difference between this one and like Madden 25. So for that, good try. The tackling cone system was a good concept, but just really something that we really never thought was necessary or really changed the game for better. All right, next up, we've got Madden 16. I feel like this one's probably going to make a lot of people mad. For whatever reason, Madden 16, you got Odell Beckham with the catch, one of the awesome, most best catches in the history of the NFL ever, gracing the cover, and he had a phenomenal season that year. And one of the things that they implemented was these new types of catch systems in Madden, like you have the yak catch, possession catch, and aggressive catches that we use today, even in the current Maddens currently. And because of that, this is the only reason why I didn't move this all the way from a D to an E, because other than that, there really wasn't anything special about Madden 16. And because we are still using those types of catches in the current gameplay system for Madden, that's the only reason I kept it as high as I did. Another thing that they added was fantasy drafting that nobody really even uses and is not something that anybody even wanted at that case in time in 2015 for Madden. All right, so now we're gonna move up to B. You see what I'm doing? Start to C, D, B, we'll go to E, A, then we'll go to the worst Maddens ever, and then the best Maddens ever. All right, so for B, what I'm thinking, these are games that had some good improvements, but they weren't good enough to actually revolutionize the way that we currently play Madden. All right, so first up is going to be Donovan McNabb, Madden 2006. And all I have to say is Superstar Mode. This game has Superstar Mode, one of the most fun features that Madden's ever had. One of the things as fans that we want them to implement back into the new Maddens. For whatever reason they don't. Really great game mode. This had a great soundtrack, and it also implemented that vision cone for quarterbacks. It was a thing that was very controversial. I myself, it added a lot of realism into the game, but for the casual fan, a lot of people didn't like it. I liked it. I thought it made the game a lot more challenging and, again, realistic, which is what I'm all about. It did get removed a few years later, which we've already talked about, but it was a good implementation into the game. It did change the way the game was played. It had a great soundtrack, and then of course Superstar Mode 2006 deserves to be better than average in that B tier. All right, next up we've got Madden 2008 with Vince Young on the cover. What happened to Vince Young? But with this, they implemented Hit Stick 2.0, something that we're still using to this day, which now you could hit stick somebody up high or down low, depending on what type of runner they were. You know, Derrick Henry, you're not hitting that guy high. You got to take his legs out. Also, they revamped the whole fatigue system specifically for quarterbacks because Vince Young was the quarterback. He was fast. They did not want the same thing that happened with Vince Young that it did with Michael Vick a few years prior. And they had a whole new branch animation system that did not repeat animations throughout the game, and I think that needs to be something that they redo, because animations, I see the same animations in the current Maddens over and over again, and they just need to revamp Madden in general, unfortunately. All right, last up in B tier for me is gonna be Madden 10. The first cover with 2 players on it, and could it be any more better to have these 2 players, Troy Polamalu, Larry Fitzgerald, 2 of the most professional athletes to ever play in the NFL, 2 great guys. And in this game, they not only did they revamp the rating system, it was a lot more in depth. You really could tell a difference between one player versus another. But not only did they do that, they had the fight for the fumble thing that I wish they would re-implement, to whenever there was a scrum, you would actually have to fight to get the ball. It made online play better. It made franchise games more better. It actually made the fumble actually mean something. No, now it seems like whenever you fumble, just one person gets it. There's no fight for it. All right, next up, we've got the E tier. So these are some of the worst Maddens they ever graced. There were no changes. Some of the features that they added were just garbage, and they would have been better off not even making a Madden that year. So let's get into this. This is going to be bad. All right, the first one I'm going to start with, and some people might not like this, is going to be Madden 25 with Barry Sanders on it. And I think this is the one that also might have had Adrian Peterson on there as well. I'm not really sure. The reason why I'm putting in this was because there weren't a lot of features added into this game, and it was very, very glitchy. There was a lot of problems with the game, and it was not well received whatsoever in the Madden community. Then these next ones, I don't even think I need to say. Madden 17, Madden 18, and Madden 19. Oh, and one more, Madden 20. All of these games, this was really, I think, when Madden really turned for the worst. I think the last 5-6 Maddens have all been garbage. There's been nothing implemented that has changed the way that we play the game. It's basically the same game, just as a roster update. That's what everybody picks and plays with and says about Madden every year. And unfortunately, it's true. Please tell me, 17, 18, 19, 20. Is there anything that revolutionized, changed the game, added a new feature that made anything any better for us as Madden players? I can't think of it. If I'm wrong, please correct me down in the comments because I can't find anything. All right, now we're getting to the good stuff. A tier, S tier, and then the worst Madden ever. We're gonna save the worst Madden ever for next to last. And first up, let's look at it. It's gonna be Madden 2002 with Dante Culpepper on the cover. And one of the best things that I have to say about Madden 2002 is that the physics engine was completely rehauled, it was improved, and it actually felt like a real football game. If you go back and look at Madden 2002, to me, it even plays better than the current Maddens. And it was a phenomenal game. It changed the way football games were played forever. And it deserves to be in that A tier. All right, next up, we've got Madden 2001 with none other than Eddie George on the cover, the first ever cover athlete for Madden 2001. That alone deserves to be in this A category. And I said these were Hall of Fame. I take that back. These aren't Hall of Fame games, but these are some of the greatest games from Madden. In 2001, what really made it special was the create a player. Okay, create a player where you create your own player, put them in the game and play as them. That was a really cool feature that wasn't around at the time. You also could create plays. They had Europe teams. I mean, does anybody remember playing as a European team? I would always take like the worst European team, which was like, was it like the Fire or something? I can't even remember, and stack them against like the AFC Pro Bowlers and try to beat them every game. It was so much fun. And another thing that they added in 2001 were those Madden cards. Do you remember those, where you could like increase your chances of getting a fumble or bring somebody back that was hurt or make the wind blow like 100 freaking miles an hour? That was really fun. And things like that we don't have currently in Madden, just little tiny little things that makes the game a little more fun. Even if somebody doesn't want to play franchise or doesn't want to play Madden Team or Ultimate Team, they have these little things that you can do that even a child could pick up and implement. Because I know me as a kid always loved putting those cards in, especially if I was like losing or winning or whatever, and it just made the game so much more fun. All right, so now we're going to go down to the worst Madden ever, and I think you know where I'm going with this. I mean, it's going to be psych. It's you got to be kidding me. It's definitely going to be though Madden 21, and the only reason I'm saying that is because it's the last Madden put out, and it was garbage. It was really bad. It was also the most updated Madden of all time, which probably tells you that it wasn't that good to start out with. If it's the most updated Madden of all time, it's probably going to be one of the worst ones. And I'm probably might be a little bit harsh. You probably could swap out some of these other ones for that, but because EA has consistently put out the same garbage year in and year out, and unfortunately we as consumers keep playing it year in and year out, I've got to do this. This is the worst Madden to date. And next year, if it's the same way, I'm going to put Madden 22 as there, unfortunately. Sorry, Patrick Mahomes. Sorry, Tom Brady. All right, so here we go. The S tier, the creme de la creme of Madden games. And if you were around during the time that these games got put out, well, hats off to you, sir, or the lady, because you got to experience some of the best Madden of all time. Really, the best Madden of all time. Let's get into it. All right, first up, I mean, I'm gonna go with my all-time favorite Madden, which is going to be Madden 2003. This was the first Madden that I got on my own. So my brother was 10 years older than me. He always had Madden. I played Madden ever since it was like on the Super Nintendo. I remember being a child, and the first game I can remember playing is Madden. But I remember owning Madden 2003 on the GameCube. It was the first game that I personally owned. It was the only game I could afford to buy, and I bought Madden. And it was phenomenal. It was amazing. I mean, everything from the soundtrack. I think this game has the best soundtrack ever, and you could fight me on that. You're not going to win. I mean, this game was amazing. They revamped the whole play creation. They had gang tackling. It was the first time you saw that, where more than one player could tackle everybody. And it had a lot of in-depth features for franchise mode, like training camp. So you could actually take players through training camp and build them up and make them better before the start of the season. Something that we still don't even have to this day in current Madden, which I just do not get why, you know. It's such a small feature that can really change the way franchise is being played, but they had it all the way back in 2003. Next up is going to be Madden 2005 with Ray Lewis. And I don't think I need to say anything other than just Hit stick. Hit stick was revolutionary and completely changed the defensive side of football in a video game forever. And we're still using this like 17 years later. Hit stick is still a thing. The game was phenomenal. Defense really got a boost in this. And I mean, it was just a great game all around. I don't think I need to say anything. Just look up Madden 2005 and how it changed the way that we currently play football, especially on the defensive side of the ball. You know, and it's something that I wish they would go back to. In today's game where offense is everything, I think it would really even the playing field for them to really try to get the defensive side of the ball back up to par. And I think it would make the game so much better, but that's neither here or there. Now, last but not least, probably the consensus as the best Madden game ever. I know some people probably would move some of these, especially 2002, 2001, maybe up or down, depending on when you started playing and exactly what it meant to you. I don't think you can really move any of these any further than S or A. If you move any of these 5 down to B, get out. Just get out, because you don't know Madden. But Madden 2004 is the consensus pick for the best Madden game ever. I think if you polled 10,000 people, 100,000 people, every person that's ever played Madden, most people are going to say Madden 2004 is the best Madden game ever. And it changed the way Madden was played forever. Michael Vick on that game is the greatest Madden player of all time. He was unstoppable. 99 speed, I believe. Maybe it was 100 speed. I think back then you could get 100 overall on your speed. It was crazy. Not only that, but they implemented an owner mode for franchise, which you had complete control over everything from like concession stands to jersey sales to everything within your team, which was groundbreaking at the time. It also had a very great soundtrack. They had training camp and mini camp as well. They implemented in that even built on what 2003 had with Marshall Faulk that I talked about earlier. This game was phenomenal. It was great. It was the best Madden ever. So here's my list. What do you think about it? Let me know. Do you disagree? Do you agree with it? Is there anything that you would change around? I'm sure some of you are probably going to be upset because I'm sure at some point, some of you guys, maybe 2013, Madden 13 was the first Madden game you ever played, or Madden 12, or Madden 10, and that holds a special place in your heart, and I get it, but you're wrong. The best ones are 2004, 2003, 2005, and I don't think you can move those off the pedestal. Those are Hall of Fame football games, sport games, and these down here, they suck.